Party people, welcome once again to the Party of One podcast, the actual play RPG podcast where the gaming table is always set for two. I am your host as always, Jeff Stormer. This week on the show, I am joined by Quinn Sowers, Dungeon Master of the Heroes Not Included podcast, for a game of Star Wars, Force, and Destiny. Heroes Not Included is an improv storytelling podcast powered by Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. They just wrapped their 4th season, making this the perfect time to catch up before they launch Season 5, which will feature content from the new batch of Dungeons & Dragons books, including Mad Mage and Dragon Heist. It's a great podcast. I think you should check it out. You can find more information at heroesnotincluded.com. Force and Destiny is the 3rd chapter in Fantasy Flight's Star Wars trilogy of role-playing games, focused on Force users and the ethical and moral conflicts that make up the core of the Star Wars saga. It's a great game. I love it. We've played it before on the show. We'll certainly play it again on the show. You can find more information about that in the show notes. And with all that said, let's throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me.
Thanks, future me. This week, I am sitting down with Quinn Sowers. Quinn, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Hey, absolutely. You guarantee we're going to have a lot of fun today.
Oh, I cannot wait. I can tell you from the last time that we played that no one has gotten to hear but us that it's going to be a great game. So real quick, at the top of the show, why don't you take a moment to let the listeners at home know about any projects that you've got going on that you might want them to know about?
Oh, right. Well, Heroes Not Included. That's our weekly improv storytelling podcast featuring Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. And we just wrapped up Season 4. And we're getting ready. We're recording right now. We're producing a bunch of material for Season 5, which will debut the first week in January of 2019. So it's a great time to kind of catch up on everything that has happened before. With the new season, we're bringing in an entirely new cast, and we're going to be playing through Wizards of the Coast, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, and of course the follow-up, Mad Mage. So we're very excited about that.
Super cool. That's fantastic. That's awesome.
That's kind of the big announcement, as it were.
That's super exciting. I've been really hyped for the new, hearing the pitches for the new D&D books. I'm really excited, so I kind of can't wait to see what you kind of whip up with them. I think it's going to be really, really cool.
Well, thank you. We've already started our recording sessions, getting ready, and already we've had a lot of fun. So, I'm excited. I think everyone's going to really enjoy the new cast, and we're going to have lots of fun and intriguing stories to tell, so...
Super, super cool. Well, speaking of fun and intriguing stories, this week we are playing Fantasy Flight Star Wars. It is a game that is close to my heart. I know it's close to your heart as well. So why don't you take a moment and introduce us to the character that you're going to be playing this week?
The character I'm playing this week is RANN QEL-NOSH. And essentially, Ran is, for lack of a better term, a reluctant Jedi, a reluctant Jedi hero. If there is a way to be an anti-hero and a Jedi at the same time, then that's kind of what Ran is. He attempted to gain vengeance for the destruction of his master through Palpatine's Order 66, and that whole process kind of left him scarred and bitter and cynical. But he's recently come across the possibility of maybe, dare I say, a new hope in the person of a young man who is much more idealistic and not nearly as weathered.
So yeah, you encountered Hope DELNARI on a small, corporately controlled starport, where that was overwhelmingly controlled by Imperial forces. They had determined that Hope had access to the Force and had built himself a small lightsaber, and They were going to basically drag him off, hand him off to an Inquisitor, and that was going to be the end of him. But Ran, feeling some sort of pangs of conscience, or at least perhaps a sense of something could be done, pulled this kid to safety and brought him off to the planet Yavin, wherein there is the Jedi Temple, wherein, in the days before the Battle of Yavin, there's this small rebel contingency. So what has been happening with the two of them since then? What, you've dropped off this young child, right? This wet behind the ears, could be Padawan, could just be troublemaker. And you've got a little bit of reputation around the rebel base. So what does your life look like at this moment?
Well, so the the rebels obviously value, any Force user, and especially a Force user of Rand's ability and history with the Alliance. I'm sure there is some level of, deference or a desire to include Rand in a whole variety of decision-making processes, or maybe get Rand to, lead a mission or something, something like that. But Rand, he did save Hope against his better judgment, he feels personally.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
At the end of the day, they got back to Yavin, and I'm sure there was a part of Rand that really just took a moment and went, what the hell did I do? I mean, why did I just do that? I could have just disappeared into oblivion, and now, I have a mouth to feed, if you will. So
yeah, pretty much.
I get a sense. I think what it comes down to is Hope is, diving into all things Rebel, right? It's his first Rebel Alliance parade, so he has all the bracelets, and he's gotten the T-shirt, and he has the tattoo. He's drank the Kool-Aid. He is. Hope is there, ready to go. Yes, Rebels all the way. We're going to defeat the Empire. And I think there's probably a level of frustration on Hope's end with the fact that Rand pretty much kind of just sulks around the base, occasionally gets, or sometimes more than occasionally gets drunk, and generally just wants to be left alone. I think Rand... everything that happened on that corporate control planet, I think, is finally kind of caught up with Rand, and he's realized the situation. He realizes that what he's kind of gotten himself into, and I think there's a lot of insecurity around that.
Sure, absolutely.
How does he know that it should be anyone who should be responsible for a Padawan or any kind of Jedi learner or something like that? And should he even teach him any of the Jedi stuff? Because a lot of the Jedi, a lot of the things that he learned about the Jedis were not great. So,
yeah,
I think he just avoids that entire thing by simply ignoring or attempting to ignore Hope, despite Hope's constant, surprise moments of enthusiasm with, look, I just found a new Rebel bracelet, or whatever it is that moves Hope along.
And Hope is doing a lot of that. There's a lot of, Hope will track you down in an alley and be like, we just went through the most elaborate exercise. It was so exciting. And it's just rattling your ear off about every little, training procedure and, virtual module that he goes through. Hope is just talking your ear off. And where do we find you in a rare moment of silence where Hope is off doing something else? Where do we find you having a moment of, dare I say, peace?
Usually, Rand has found that no one actually goes to the top of the temple. That a lot of stuff happens at the ground level and underneath the temple. And so Rand oftentimes makes his way up through the old ruins to the top and sits out there, on the top of the temple in the sun, the rain, or whatever, away from everything. And that's, generally where he likes to be. He's not a big fan of his own company, but he likes his own company more than he likes the company of a lot of other people.
That's fair. So we find you up there, and the wind is blowing. It is a particularly windy, and it's that kind of hot, humid wind where it feels like it should be drier than it is, but you're just getting that humidity blowing on your face. And it kind of feels refreshing a little bit in its own peculiar way. Yavin, especially Yavin 4, has that strange kind of magic to it. Perhaps that's why the Jedi felt so strongly about this as a temple spot, is there's just something in the air. And you're here, and this is where General Jin Kaleri comes to find you. Jin is an older gentleman, salt and pepper hair, mustache, big 70s mustache, real Tom Selleck-esque.
Ooh, handsome.
Yeah, he's got that sort of older gentleman charm. He's got that, was probably like a 40s or 50s actor that we've kind of recast into this sort of supporting character role.
Bring it on.
And he kind of is approaching behind. I think the camera pans, right? We get this beautiful sweeping circle shot of you sitting up here and feeling that wind, and then he's just kind of over your shoulder from a middle distance.
General?
Ran? I know you don't like to be bothered up here, but I figured it was important.
It always is, isn't it?
Well, you know, it is, but... And I think what he says here is true when he says, like, it is, but I know better than to treat things as important when it comes to you because I don't want to waste your time. I think a lot of people have, like, tried to give you that, like, everything in the rebellion is important, and I think Jin has kept his distance and has been very, like, you take the, like, you do what you need to do.
Right. Okay. Well, what brings you up here on a lovely evening?
Well, I figured I'd get your rejection from, like, to my face when I came to you with this. It's important, but I have a feeling I know how you'll react, but I hope you'll at least consider it.
Continue.
We have a mission. And we need someone with a proven record of getting someone out of a tight space. And given the fact that you pulled a Force user out from under an Inquisitor's nose, I figure there's nobody better on this base to ask first than you.
I simply paid the right people to get us off the planet. And frankly, I was just much more concerned about getting my own ass off that planet. It just so happens that Hope is fairly difficult to get rid of.
That's understandable, and frankly, if I was in your shoes, I might have had the same concerns. This is why I wanted to come to you as opposed to letting one of the more, and he kind of has to stifle a laugh a little bit, enthusiastic recruits come and talk to you first.
Well, where is this person?
Are you familiar with the... Are you familiar with the KOL HURO system?
I don't know.
Why don't you make me an outer rim roll?
Okay.
This will be an easy difficulty. So that'll be one purple alongside whichever other dice you wanna, alongside your skill dice rather.
2 success and 1 advantage.
Perfect. So I'll let you know what you need to know, and you can ask me a question about the situation once I kind of give you the scoop.
Okay.
KOL HURO is a factory, is a factory system that was formerly run by the Confederacy. It was a droid factory planet. It was taken over, or rather, it was controlled by a tyrant. The tyrant was toppled by the Jedi Order. However, then the Empire moved in. They have sort of repurposed this as a manufacturing center for a lot of their weaponry. A lot of particularly, heavy gunnery weapons, cannons, that sort of thing. And so you're familiar with that, and he says, we have an intelligence officer on the inside, scoping things out, getting intel, giving us readouts, typical stuff, spy stuff. The problem is, she wasn't anticipating the Imperial presence that's there, and there's now a blockade on people exiting the planet.
How does an intelligence officer not know that a planet that produces heavy weapons for the Empire wouldn't have an Imperial presence?
Well, you know the Empire, they are tricky like that. Even the best of us can be caught with our pants down.
So, General, you want me to go into a heavily fortified Imperial system and extract your intelligence officer?
The dramatic way to put it is that. The way that I would put it is, we have forged documents, we have the data work in order. We just need a data pad handed off. We have forged passes off the planet. We just, because of the nature of the blockade, we can't digitally hand them off to our agent on the inside. We need someone capable of slipping in fairly undetected, making the right deals, talking to the right people, capable of keeping their head down, not attracting attention, who can find our agent, hand off the passes, and then discreetly make their way off on the next Imperial transport.
Oh, well, that's simple. Why didn't you say that in the first place?
You know, spy stuff.
Yeah, spy stuff.
If I understand, if you are not part of the rebellion, and I understand if this is not you, I understand that. That said, you would be doing all of us, you'd be doing me a favor, and he looks kind of over the edge of the temple a little bit, kind of at nothing, and just says, you'd be giving a real example of what someone in the rebellion could do with your skills.
I am tired of constantly having to give examples of what people with my abilities or skills can do. All right. Do we have a shuttle or something that I can use to fly that? How am I getting there? Oh, and where is Hope?
Where do we think Hope is at this moment? What is Hope is probably like
Probably trying to get Han Solo's autograph or something. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, he's for sure like chasing her. I think he's for sure chasing around. Like Mon Mothma's here, and he's just been like, she landed on a transport, and he's just been asking her questions for like 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, I see him. Maybe he's an Akbar fanboy or something.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know. It's
for sure. He's definitely just like fanboying out. I think Jin just kind of like gives that wry smile and says, he is off. We don't know exactly where he is at this moment, but I assure you, we can track him down easily enough in the temple. He's not easy to miss.
All right, so I'm going to need money in the form of Imperial credits. If I'm going to make any kind of deals with anybody, credits is really the only thing that's going to make that happen.
We can supply that. We can ensure that the credits that you need, or we can ensure that a generous stipend is given to you immediately upon your departure. We have a requisitioned Imperial shuttle. By all rights, it appears legitimate. It should be able to get you into the starport. Our agent, her name is what's a good one? Charisse Huck. Charisse is near the starport in sort of the central city within the planet, near the starport, central city. You should be able to very quickly kind of find her. She has been given instructions to meet up with you at a nearby bar. Everything should be in place. The handoff should be fairly seamless. A stipend for any sort of incidentals can be provided, and then we assume that everything in the stipend will be used for incidentals, if you catch my drift.
So, you're providing me with an Imperial shuttle. I fly to this starport. I land because I have the access codes. I go to a bar, I hand off the materials, and I fly away.
Yes.
All right.
So my question for you, and this is for you, Quinn, is what do you want to know? What do you want to know? What's the one question you want to know about this operation that you have the second success that you can kind of ask me and I will answer honestly?
Well, if it was that simple, all they had to do was just, have someone fly an Imperial shuttle into a hangar bay and hand off something in a bar. They could have had anybody do it. So there's something that the General isn't telling me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if, whether it's, force-sensitive intuition or it's just Rand's been around the block a few times, that he somehow picks up on whatever that might be.
There's... I can definitely point that out. I think the thing that that Jin is playing sort of fast and loose with is he has not given any indication of who this intelligence agent is. He's been very kind of just like, it's one of our agents. He said a name, but he's just kind of, I think this, he's being very vague with the specifics of the situation. You don't really know a lot about like what Charisse was doing there or what this, and it's like you asked, like why there's this sudden uptick in Imperial activity. Like there are holes in his story. I think it's easier to say that there's not necessarily one thing. It's just that he's being very broad strokes about it and almost probably intentionally making the operation sound easier than perhaps it really will be on the field.
So I stand up and I turn and I face him. And I look him straight in the eye. And I say, "What are you not telling me, General?"
Make me a roll for this.
All right. What do you want? Charm? Persuasion? Negotiation? What am I doing?
I'll call this persuasion, I think, is probably good for it.
Okay. Oh, I guess they don't have persuasion as a skill. I guess it's negotiation or charm.
I'm going to call this, I think this is more negotiation than charm. I don't think you're necessarily being charming.
I agree. Okay, what's the difficulty?
We'll call this, I'm going to say because he is an agent, and because he is like a bureaucrat, I'm going to set this at a difficulty of 3.
Okay.
I think it's a little bit tougher because he is somebody that is sort of trained in obscure, like in knowing how to tell you something without telling you what he doesn't want to tell you.
Okay. I have 1 triumph and 2 advantages. And because I'm a smooth talker, when making negotiation checks, I can spend triumphs to gain additional successes equal to my rank, and it's a rank of 1. So I can turn that triumph into 2 successes, thus making it 2 successes and 2 advantages.
Okay. So then I will have him... Okay, yeah, perfect. That works out really nicely.
Okay.
So I think what he ends up telling you is he kind of like laughs and he says, "I should have known better. You're a pro, and this is what we need. It's not just about pulling out an agent. This is not just getting an agent off planet. She has with her some information, some highly sought after contraband, a data pad that contains the kind of schematics for the kind of weaponry that will serve the rebellion very nicely. But it's the kind of data pad and the kind of schematics that if the Empire were to find or were to have any reason to suspect that she might have it, there will be a problem."
So is the information or her more important to you, General?
You know I can't answer that.
You might have to.
He said the way he says it, and like the sparkle in his like deep brown eyes and the slightest flicker of a grin kind of hints at the answer that he would give if he could answer it.
In other words, the plans are obviously more important than the agent. Yeah.
Yeah, he can't answer it because he doesn't want to say the answer because it would make him out to be a bad guy.
I'll look at him and I'll say, "What's the matter, General? The General's bar is feeling a little heavy?"
You understand the burden of command, I'm sure.
No, I don't. Because I've avoided the burden of command my entire life, and I plan to continue to do so. Thank you very much.
I can't say I don't envy that. At least in this moment.
I will do my best to recover the plans, and if it proves to be convenient, I'll see to it that the agent returns as well.
Oh, I like that. Good. He kind of like, he looks down, he looks back up. I can work with that.
I'm going to need a foil, so if you can find Hope for me, tell him to meet me in the hangar bay.
I suspect he'll leap at the opportunity.
That's what I'm banking on.
And yeah, we cut to inside the Imperial shuttle.
Okay.
You know, Hope now is like looking as faux serious as he can.
Right. I'm on a mission!
Yeah, right, exactly. Like he's got this, he's like very consciously doing this like stone face thing where he's like, yes, this is it. This is our opportunity. And he's kind of periodically, you look over just to see him whispering things to himself like, yeah, this is it. It's all come to this. The entirety of the Star Wars have come to this moment.
The entirety of the Star Wars. I love it.
So, tell me where you're at as you're flying into this base.
Well, probably sitting there on the bridge. I mean, my piloting isn't, phenomenal by any stretch of the imagination. Well, I take that back. It's not bad, actually. So I guess I am flying the thing.
If you would like to have a crew, you could probably strong-arm Jin into giving you a pilot and some, at least people to operate the ship and all that.
Well, then that's just that many more people that I have to keep track of.
Fair point.
Right. So I don't really see Rand being the sort of individual who's like, surround me with bunches of people.
Bucking off the bars of command, sure.
It's just not what he's interested in at all. So yeah, I'm probably flying and doing my best to fly casual.
Mm-hmm.
Rand has learned over the years that it's fairly difficult to plan for the unexpected, rather just to make sure that you yourself are prepared for anything and, kind of let the cards fall where they may. So I don't think that Rand's probably putting a lot of thought or energy into, okay, I'm going to get there and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I think it's more, make sure the coordinates are right, and then we come out of hyperspace, and then, I'm going to, fly casual, transmit the codes, and kind of take it from there.
Mm-hmm.
Planning has never been a Rand strong suit.
Yeah. In fact, give me a roll for to fly casual. I'm going to set this at a difficulty of 2, so a medium roll. Okay. Not so much to land land safely and everything. Or I guess this might be pilot space. Give me either piloting roll, as you are basically what I'm asking for is a roll to, you're sending the codes, you're flying casual to make it look like you are a designated Imperial shipment, and that no one's going to look at your ship and say, "Hey, what's going on here?"
All right, yeah. So I have. See if I can bring that up there. It looks like one advantage and one success.
Okay. Yep. Seamless. And we get that shot of the Imperial. We kind of zoom in on KOL HURO, and it is Warhammer 40k factory worlds. Just smokestacks billowing, people carrying just the barrels of cannons on hover dollies. We're getting a lot of these shots as your Imperial cruiser is just effortlessly landing. And no one's really noting it because it's just an Imperial shuttle landing.
Right.
But there's probably no shortage of them in the skies, kind of enforcing this blockade or this security lockdown, basically. And so you land pretty effortlessly, and just as you kind of hit the atmosphere and start to approach Starport 7G, Hope kind of leans forward in his seat. And it's like, ow. What the? This is new. Do you ever get headaches? Because I'm getting this weird headache.
Yeah, I get headaches.
Yeah.
I can just kind of give him a look like, like you're often the source of them.
And, like, he seems like he immediately, like, starts to go to laugh, but then starts holding, like, the bridge of his nose in his hand again. It's just like, no, I'm... Okay, but seriously, though. And I think at that moment, tell me what it feels like when you sense not just the Force, but the dark, like the dark side of the Force, or like a Sith presence.
I think maybe in the movies they always talk about I feel cold, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think there's kind of a chill, but I like to think also that the light side energy and the dark side energy kind of create like pressure waves.
Okay,
sure. A little bit. So I tend to think that maybe it's kind of like this cold chill that's also a part of this sort of pressure change. Kind of like when you're going up in an airplane. Yeah, and so there's there's kind of this pressure change, like you've just stepped into this colder, different pressured zone, right?
Yeah,
that's how I've always thought of it.
Yeah, it's like a cold wind when it blows on you and your muscles kind of tighten.
Yeah, a little bit, right? But there's also kind of that pressure there where you can kind of feel the sort of, the pressure's changing.
Yeah, I love that. And that's exactly what you start to feel. And it's definitely something that you have felt before. And you're looking at Hope, like, clutching his head and, like, being like, what in the... Griffin... Ugh. And you're getting the sense that this is not something that he has ever felt before.
I don't say anything to him. I mean,
right.
He's, he wants to be a Jedi, and then it's about time he learns how to deal with this sort of crap.
That's perfectly valid. That's
kind of Rand's attitude is like, look, this is what you want, so, figure your crap out.
I love it. I completely love it. Yeah. And he's just like, you kind of step off and there are Imperials, like, officers as far as the eye can see, like, running. And what's weird about it as you step off the shuttle is there's a lot of Imperial, like, officers and bureaucrats and people in sort of officialist uniforms handling jobs that seem like they would be way beneath an Imperial, like, officer. So there are people carrying dollies and, like, boxes and things.
Have I... So, one of the things I noticed from the movies all the time is that it seems also like Force users, when they encounter a specific sort of sense or presence, they tend to kind of pick up on that, almost like each pressure wave has its own sort of vibration or frequency or something.
Sure.
Does anything about that sort of sense of the dark side feel familiar specifically to Ran? Or is it just that it's the dark side and Ran has sensed that before?
Why don't you give me a sense roll?
All right, let's see here.
To see how much you can piece that. Yeah, give me a force roll for that tell me how much you can kind of pick up on the specifics of it.
Okay.
I think sense is a force ability, right? Am I making that up?
No, you aren't making it up. I'm just trying to think of which force ability would be most applicable in this case. I guess I'll just roll my force rating, and then I'll tell you. I'll tell you what I got.
Yeah, that works.
All right. I have 1 dark side point and 2 dark side points that Ran obviously isn't going to spend.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's not a specific pressure that you've felt before. And so you can sense that it's a particular presence, right? Like you get the sense because you've been around Vader, you know how your body reacts around someone like specific like that. So you can be like, this is someone specific, but I can't get any details about them.
All right. Well, at least that's good because Rand's the kind of person where, had he picked up on that very specific sense of Vader, who he remembers very distinctly, would have just gotten back on the shuttle.
Yep. Would have said, we're going home.
Well, that's it.
Would have been a quick game.
I'm not, Rand doesn't need to do that again. Been there, done that. Didn't want the t-shirt. So
Fair. That's
okay.
fair.
All right. So, well, I assume I was given directions to this bar.
Yeah, it is a small, not like one of the few sort of non-Imperial controlled or Imperial like loyal bars in the area, which at least for now means that it's primarily mercenaries and bounty hunters, as opposed to, general people who live in the system, factory workers and like. At this point, because of the enhanced Imperial presence on planet, pretty much the Imperials have taken over all of the area bars, except for like one or two that already had sort of a criminal element, and then all of the criminal element sort of flocked to these two bars.
And what cover was I given? What's my alias? Who am I?
That's a good question.
Knowing the general, it's probably something, that they thought was fairly pedestrian and plebeian sounding. But, I mean, I don't know.
We'll say... Let me think. Let's see. Why don't you, we'll say that you're an Imperial, you're an Imperial intelligence officer yourself, because, you have to have a reason. You would have to have a reason to be going onto a planet in a lockdown, so I think, having you as sort of an intelligence sort of relay point is probably, a good call. So, in fact, because of that, though, I am going to ask you for a deception roll. And this is going to be, we're going to call this hard. We'll call this 3.
Okay. Just a general deception roll, or is it towards someone in specific? Maybe person I was talking to on the...
Yeah, it's towards, it is towards basically an Imperial sort of, almost comptroller. I think that's not the right word, but a dispatcher. That's the one I'm thinking of. A dispatcher that basically, as you're giving your cover story, is basically grilling you on... So you're flying in and you give your sort of cover about being an Imperial intelligence, and they're like, okay, great. Are you meeting with anybody? Do you have any particular sort of things that you're handing off? What's your purpose here?
What do you want the difficulty to be?
We'll call it 3. No, we'll call it 2. I think this is a low level person, and if you were to sort of brush them off, they probably wouldn't be the most upset.
Fair enough. I don't think I've done so well. What is that? 3? That looks like 2 failures and an advantage.
Okay, so if you have an idea on what you want the advantage to be, but I know what I want the failure to be, and that is that basically when you say that you're like your Imperial intelligence, the person pips in with like, oh great, you're probably here to meet with the Moff. We'll set up an appointment for you post haste so you can hand off whatever information you've been dispatched to hand off, and we'll beam you the information on your on your comm link as soon as possible.
I think the advantage is that Rand doesn't reveal any of his cards.
Okay,
so
sure.
It's the guy's like, I'm going to set you up with them off right immediately, and Rand's like, okay, great, thank you very much, and in sort of that sort of attitude of, I will worry about that after I get through this sort of mentality. He doesn't show his cards. He doesn't be like, I don't really want to meet with them off. He just kind of like, okay, that's what I want to do.
You're cool under pressure, and I think that's the valuable skill, especially in your current predicament.
Yes, exactly. So he just kind of keeps his cool together, and he doesn't give anything away. That's what I would like my advantage to be.
I love it. That's perfect. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. I think that the person is so kind of on autopilot that they also don't really ask you any other questions. They're just like, okay, great, Imperial Intelligence, we'll set up a meeting with them off immediately. Click.
Right. Won't be the first meeting that Rand has not made it to.
Mm-hmm. So you're in the starport, right? You're moving towards
this bar.
We'll call it Jalepi's place.
Jalopy. Nice. All right. Yeah.
Jalopy is... What's the alien?
Sells great meatballs.
Yes.
Jalopy
is the alien that was Dex from...
Dex from Attack of the Clones.
Yes, that sort of ridiculous mustachioed diner alien.
I forget what the name of I forget their name now, but yes, outstanding.
Yes, Jalopy is exactly that alien. And I think in the grand tradition of Star Wars, he's that alien with a different colored mustache and like a newsboy cap that is never explained.
Right? Yes, because that way we know it's two different ones.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Because, we're saving money on the costumes. It's
exactly.
It's a lot of latex.
So, but you're heading towards Jalopy's place, and you are seeing all of these kind of Imperials, and Hope is behind you, still clutching his head, and looking around and being like, what?
Knock it off, boy.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Being cool. So what's the plan, boss?
You're going to keep your mouth shut. And you're going to follow along behind me like you're my aide-de-camp.
Understood. Keep my mouth shut. Keep my mouth shut starting now. Now. Well, I mean, now.
I just keep walking.
Yep.
just... All right. Try to make my way to the Jalopy's here. And I assume my instructions were, to look for someone or maybe to sit in a specific booth and they would find me. So, right now, until, everything hits the fan, Raz's just going to try and follow the script as written.
Perfect. So you get to Jalopy's place. It's the cantina. It is a classic Star Wars cantina shot.
Nice.
There's aliens and bounty hunters of all kinds. Dengar is there, and that's our one big Star Wars extended universe cameo.
How you doing, Dengar? Like the bandages, man. Those are you. Those are you, buddy. Those are you.
And you're you find the booth that you've been designated to sit at.
Okay.
And you've got some time. You are sitting for a while, and you see no sign of anybody sort of coming towards your booth.
Okay.
What are you doing in that sort of downtime? Are you just sitting casually? Are you doing any research? Are you looking into anything? Are you just hanging out? What's your game plan here?
Well, I think, the first hour or so, Ran would probably spend that time just kind of, looking around, observing, looking at all of the different people that are kind of coming in and out, trying to get a sense of, who the clientele are, what kind of place this is, who's frequenting. Making a note of, okay, who's walking in with weapons, and they don't want people to think they're walking in with weapons, kind of essentially spending that time getting to know their surroundings and the environment.
Mm-hmm. And then give me an underworld roll for that. Give me an underworld roll, and we'll call it easy. We'll call it 1 difficulty.
Okay.
I would call it perception, but I think it's probably better fit I think because you're specifically looking around at the criminal element, I think it makes more sense to go underworld.
1 success.
Okay. Yeah, you can tell that what's interesting about this is that, the bounty hunters and mercenaries are almost all surrendering, even the weapons that they don't want people to know about. You see a Rhodian come in and pull out a vibro knife from her boot, and she hands it off to a coat rack droid. That's one of those 6-armed droids, and takes it and puts it on a hook and runs it along a hook, on a bar, on a dowry, and she runs it along, or a dowel. She runs it along, and they're all being. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's a little bit like that gun closet in Matrix 2 when they go down to hell.
Yes, exactly like that.
Yeah,
and everybody is being extremely friendly about it, and they're just well, gun check. I don't want to cause trouble in Jalopy's place.
All right. Well, yeah, I'll hand over. Then I would have probably quite happily handed over my heavy blaster pistol.
Yeah, and I think she I'm picturing she's got one of those big panel faces that lights up with pixelated smileys, and her line turns into a smiley face. She takes the gun, hands you a little one of those vibrating restaurant things.
Nice.
And she's hand this, if there's a problem, this'll buzz. Otherwise, hand it back, and we'll use it to track your weaponry. Thank you so much for handing things off. We appreciate it.
Yeah, that's great. I always love to come here when they have the never-ending fettuccine Alfredo bowl.
It's great. It's But so you're hanging out here.
Yeah. So that's probably what Ren has spent most of his time doing.
Yeah, and I think that what you've noticed is, like, most of the clientele has done that. A few Imperial officers have come in and not done that, but you get the sense that, like, immediately when somebody sees someone not check their weapons, there's, like, a bit of a scene around them. Like, people kind of hover, and like, the mercenaries all kind of, like, start to puff out their muscles a little bit. And it's clearly like, oh, if you're trying to hold on to your weapon, we're going to physically intimidate you and make this uncomfortable for you.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how Ren would spend a good portion of that time. If there's windows to look out on the street, once Ren has felt like, he's got a pretty good bead on what's going on inside Jalepe's, he might turn his attention out to the street or the walkway, or, since it's Star Wars, the space walkway, or, whatever it is right outside the windows. And, give a good look there. What's going on across the street? Who are the people walking by? All that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and I think, like, you see a few, like, factory people, and you see kind of Imperials brush past them and, like, straighten out their shirts, right? Like, you see them kind of pull the Picard maneuver where they pull down the front of their tunics. And
right. I love it.
Everyone just seems very on edge. At least all of the Imperials. None of the bounty hunters, mercenaries, factory people seem to notice, but the Imperials are all really tightly on edge.
So, given the fact that I'm... chiss and, prone to lots of observation and, that kind of a thing. Having, spent now a couple hours while I'm waiting, looking out on the street and also looking in here, are there any sort of conclusions that, Ren might have been able to pull together, or any kind of patterns or anything like that?
About the Imperials, or about just the neighborhood in general?
More about the Imperials. The neighborhood seems pretty self-explanatory.
I think the Imperials, that the pattern is, they are... You noticed back at the spaceport that they were, like, carrying dollies and, like, running, pulling levers on computers and things that generally they would be perfectly fine handing off to, a subordinate. And now you're seeing them walk around and kind of, like, brush past and, like, two-step it, double-step it to past people to try to get into specific places and be where they need to be. There's a lot of, like, review, this all has the feeling of performance review season. Of military check-in season.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I wanted to make sure I was thinking the right way.
Yeah, you're 100% on the right track there, because everyone kind of has the vibe of, now everything has to be 100%, so I have to take over the areas where I've let things slack off in the last, 8 months or whatever.
Like you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I think two things happen fairly back to back.
Okay.
I think moments before she walks in and before you see Charisse, moments before you see her, your comlink buzzes. And it buzzes with essentially an event invite for a meeting with, and it's a message. It's like a communication from Moff Harrister.
Probably their assistant or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It says Kar Haranchi on behalf of Moff Harrister. And it's basically like, we're happy, we are delighted to hear that Imperial Intelligence is relaying information to our base. We would invite you to a meeting. Also, Inquisitress Krogar will be there.
Oh. Aha. That explains a great deal.
And as you're reading those words, Charisse comes in, and she is young, but a little weathered looking. Young, but has been in the thick of it for a very long time.
Okay.
Visibly looks like she threw herself hard into the rebellion and has been pushing herself beyond her limits for a long while.
Well, Ran can relate. Ran's fairly well weathered, although older, still pretty well weathered. All right, yeah. Well, I'll just continue to sit here. I won't really make a big show of noticing her.
What do you do when Hope immediately hops to his feet and starts to walk over?
Sit down, boy.
Okay, sure. Being cool. Shut my mouth. Right now. Starting now. I really like these two is the thing.
Yeah, they're great, aren't they? They just, Ren just, there's this constant sort of, it's like you have this little pebble in your boot, and every time you take your boot off thinking you can find it, you can't.
Nope.
And yet as soon as you go walking down the street, you're like, there it is again.
Yep. As soon as you take that first step, that's what it is.
Yeah. It's pretty, there's some comedy to be had there, that's for sure. Yeah, I assume that Hope has more than demonstrated where exactly we are, and that she likely has instructions to meet whoever is sitting in a particular booth. So I'm going to continue to play it cool.
And so Charisse walks over. Hope sits down reluctantly next to you. Charisse goes over and grabs a drink specifically between two Imperials and is just kind of very chill about it, grabs her drink, scopes the bar a little bit, looks at you, looks 3 tables past you, slides over to the bar, carries over a drink, hands you a drink, does not hand Hope a drink, and just leans in and says, "So, been here long?"
No, just passing through.
Excellent. Happy to hear it. So, and she kind of looks over and notices that the Imperials have gone back to being hassled by the bounty hunters, and leans in. So, I take it you've been informed about the situation.
I have.
Any complications I should know about before we make our exit?
No, I don't think Jalopy will mind sharing his recipe as long as we are quick and efficient.
I don't think so at all. I believe he is more than amenable. So, obviously, we just have to get clearance. We just have to make sure we get exit clearance, talk to the right Imperials, get the right codes taken off, and we'll be out of here.
Yeah, it's definitely one way to do it.
Is there another way?
Well, it seems to me that the best way to leave is in the way that is most convenient and least expected.
Listening.
Jalopy, I don't know if you know this, but he ships a great deal of his food all over the galaxy. It's high demand. Which means there's quite a bit of shipments that leave regularly from here. And because it's all heavy, the recipes, the food's very heavy, there's very little reason to, break it apart into its finite ingredients to make sure that all the ingredients are right. It's so heavy that, most people just kind of taste that overarching flavor of jalebi's.
Of course.
So I was thinking, since it's really just the big flavor that people are interested in, and they tend not to notice the finer details, that, maybe we can sneak our recipe in with Jalopy's recipe.
All right.
And maybe have it disseminated that way. I imagine Hope has no idea what we're talking about.
Oh yeah, Hope is just Hope keeps looking over at the bar where Jalopy is serving drinks and is like, what the... I feel like I was told an entirely different operation was happening.
So I look over at Hope and I say, pay attention. And I look back at Charisse and I'll say, I think it's time for us to acquaint ourselves with the inside of a shipping container.
Wouldn't be the first time, probably won't be the last. I have to go gather some things. I take it we'll meet back at the starport in an hour?
Sounds good.
All right. And the three of you depart. She goes left.
Well, we wait, right? You got to do the staggered leave,
yeah.
right? So you don't call attention to anything. So it's like,
She takes her leave.
Right, we wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's our turn.
Yep.
All right.
So where are you headed? Are you scoping out shipping containers and like transport vessels?
Yeah, I'm just, I'm going to walk as though I belong. Oftentimes that's the best con, is to not con, but just to simply, kind of, yes, I belong here. And just kind of familiarize myself. Take the hour to take note of, where the big sort of shipping is happening.
And I think you find it easily enough. You find specifically there's like a vessel gearing up to leave. Probably not like, in like a few hours, they're starting to load. They're starting to like actively load crates to get this ship of like minor parts, like, like transistor rings and stuff like that.
Perfect. That's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, there's one of these vessels that is getting loaded up right now. A couple of stormtroopers are doing the thing where they carry the big boxes and they drop them off.
Repeatedly.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you see that, and as you see that, your comlink buzzes again. And this time it is marked as high importance. Again, from Moff Harris. Actually, this one is from Moff Harrister himself.
Oh.
He says, We heard from your attaché about the important matter there is to discuss. We will be at the starport post haste.
Okay. I will reply that I was on the way to the Moff's palace.
Okay.
So it'll be some time before I arrive back at the. There will be a delay before I can arrive back at the starport, because I have to, obviously turn around.
Give me a deception, and this is going to be hard.
Yeah, this is how it goes. Ren's not very good at deceiving, but that's the nature of the beast here. 1 success and 2 threats.
Okay, that's I think the threats are okay. Yeah, so I think the message you get back is even better. Be here immediately. We need to discuss the matters at hand, and I think the threats are you start seeing sort of scrolling news ticker alerts on a lot of the screens, basically saying like possible rebel agents detected on base. Be super aware. We are triple checking all credentials before evacuation at the request of an Imperial intelligence officer.
Yes. Check all those credentials. Triple check them if you would be so kind. Wonderful. Well, that's good. That's another reason why we aren't just going to try and fly out of here and use the codes that were purchased, because that seems just like a bad idea all around now. Okay. Well, having identified the thing, I want to study kind of the pattern of loading, because Rand's idea is we open up one of the crates and we all three climb in, close the crate up, the crate gets loaded onto the vessel, and the vessel takes off. And we don't have to worry about, persuading anybody to, take a look at these codes 2 or 3 times in a row, and yes, this Imperial shuttle isn't stolen, and, we don't have to worry about any of that. We just sneak out with, the average Joe Blow transistors, and, we spend the money getting back to Yavin once we get to wherever, we're going.
Okay. Yeah. Give me a cool roll.
All right.
As you're hovering around.
Now, cool is something that Rand definitely is good at. Okay.
I am going to give you a black dice though, a black dice named Hope, who is not as good at being cool.
It's so true. No, it's so true. I mean, that's why I had to bring Hope along to make this interesting. All right. Any difficulty die?
We'll call this. We'll call it medium. We'll call it 2.
Okay. All right. That is 2 successes and 3 advantages.
Okay. If you have any ideas on what you want the advantages to be, the successes is you're able to kind of just like hang back because you're in like this very like official looking garb. No one really is giving you notice.
Right.
Hope is sort of just hovering in the background, probably kind of like following from place to place with some Imperials running doing checks.
Okay.
And you're able to just kind of step back and watch and see how things unfold.
I would like the 2 advantages, the 3 advantages. I would like to spend the 3 advantages on having sat and watched successfully and done so in a way that no one is bothering me. I would like to spend those 3 advantages by having located a crate, an ideal crate for us to use.
I think you've exactly identified, the very classic sort of Star Wars equivalent of the 3 barrels that are approximately your size.
Exactly. We're totally doing a Tolkien Hobbit moment here. This is, you are reading my mind precisely.
Yeah, and I think it's exactly that. We pan over, and we get two stormtroopers carry boxes, and as they walk by the frame, it sort of pans to the side, and we've zoomed in on these boxes, and I think you're standing directly in front of them just as Charisse kind of meets up with you discreetly, doing the whole spy thing, and is like, "So what's the situation?"
All aboard. And I kind of motion to the crate.
And she eyes you for a second, and she's like, "That's it?"
That's it.
And she stands there for another moment and says, "There's nothing else that we need to do. We just climb into some crates and we vamoose."
That's it. My job is to get that information and you out of here. So, all aboard.
And I think,
we don't need to complicate this, lady. Let's just get going. I start to feel a little bit like Han Solo, right? It's just like,
right, no.
Come on. Like, when? Oh, now we got to go find the princess. Oh, and now we got to go do this. Look, all I wanted to do was deliver you to Alderaan.
And she, I think her response to that is she's like, "Okay, yeah, sure, no problem." And she takes out like her comm pad, and she looks down at it, and she looks back up. And she looks at you for a really long time, and like this like cool, calm, like friendly demeanor starts to drop a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And she sighs and says, "You're too good at this." And she like, and then she kind of, her eyes drift over to Hope.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, "We can still spin success out of this. I can still spin success." I think she starts talking to herself, and you're able to just kind of hear it. She's like, we can still make the operation a success. And she, make me a perception roll. I think you're going to notice what she does either way, but I want to see if you have time to stop it.
Okay.
Or to react to it, I guess. So we'll have it be 1 purple and a red.
Oh, okay, very
this
fine.
I think this kind of deception is her specialty.
Oh, well, I get to upgrade the difficulty of incoming charm, coercion, and deception checks once per rank, and I have a rank in that.
Perfect, yeah.
So it's going to be even more difficult for her to actually deceive me here.
Okay.
And then I have also an advantage I can add to all charm, coercion, and deception checks unless the target is immune to force powers.
She is not.
Okay. So I'm going to add in my advantage. So even though her difficulty would be normally my 2 greens in perception, because she's making that deception check. I can make one of those a yellow
All right.
to upgrade. So there's that. And then, so it's going to be pretty even, all told. All right, here we go. I got, let's see. I always pick the wrong side of where the camera is. I always think it's on the other side. I have, it looks like 1 triumph, 2 successes, and 2 threats. I don't know if you can see that.
All right.
So technically, 3 successes, and a triumph, and 2 threats.
Yep. All right. That's pretty good. Okay, so you see that she has taken out her comlink or her data pad and is basically transmitting like a hollow picture of Hope, like, and is like writing a message about Hope to someone that you don't know of.
Well, I'll just pull the data pad out of her hand. I don't know. Are we standing near somewhere where I can like throw it and it's like, you know, like in my mind, I envision us standing near a ledge somewhere where I can just like chuck it off the ledge.
Oh yeah, totally. I'll totally let. Yeah, there's always ledges in Star Wars.
Right,
there's always ledges
in Star Wars,
and never handrails. So yeah,
well, no, because OSHA doesn't exist in the Star Wars galaxy.
Right.
So you know, if you fall off, you just get replaced. Yeah, so I just chuck it with the Force, just throw it way out there.
What the criff are you doing?
I believe I'm stealing your data pad and then throwing it off.
There were identities on there. There were names of agents.
Mm-hmm.
The very names of agents that you were told to bring back to base.
Yep. Not playing anymore. So you want to cut it straight? Or do we have to make this difficult?
I'm going to ask for this to be... I think that you're trying to coerce right now.
Well, more negotiate.
Yeah, I'll give you negotiate. Yeah, this seems like good negotiation.
You know, that's what
Yeah, for
he's
sure.
trying to do is negotiate. I mean, I'll do coercion if you want.
No. I think negotiation is perfect. I was flip-flopping between the both of them, so I think that's perfect.
All right, so negotiation, I have a couple of those and one of those. Anything else I'm adding to?
Call it a 3.
Okay.
She is good at this.
All right, I have, looks like 2 successes and 1 threat.
Okay. So I think that between the 2 threats last time and the 1 threat this time, I think that she didn't get the picture off.
Mm-hmm.
But you do get a note to your comlink that is like, you know, we've received security reports from the starport. A security envoy will be there momentarily to escort you to the palace. And you see from like distant corridors people starting to kind of enter in like Imperial guard wear. You know, Imperial security wear, guns at their hip,
security guards, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And they're talking to Cruz. You see the blast doors start to lower, and she leans in and says, "You don't." All right. Allow me to introduce myself. Sharice Huck, Rebel Alliance Intelligence Division Propaganda Specialist. I don't know if you know where you are right now, but this is a weapons factory capable of developing the kinds of weapons that could turn the tide of this fight. If we can turn the people in this factory onto our side, we could turn the tide of all of this. You don't know the kinds of things that are on the horizon. I do. It's my job to know. We need...
Is that also your job then, to report me to the Moff? And I pull up my comlink and just kind of show her. Anything else you care to add?
The people forgot. The people have forgotten. They needed a reminder of what the Empire took from them. They needed a reminder of what Order 66 looked like. Putting a couple young Jedi in a space with an Inquisitor. At best, we have a heroic battle that brings people to their feet and starts a fight, and she looks around and keeps quiet. At worst, the people see something tragic happen.
Too bad you don't have any young Jedis.
She looks over to Hope for a very long time and just says, "Don't I?"
Not at all. Boy. And I say, come here.
Yeah, boss.
As soon as he walks within range of me, I grab him and dive backwards off the ledge.
Oh, dang. All right. Yeah.
And just let free fall happen for a while. Because I have the move force ability and I'm able to move silhouette to objects, I'm pretty sure I have the ability to bring us to a nice soft landing. However,
do you feel 100? Yeah, make me that force roll.
However far away that needs to be.
Yeah, make me that force roll for sure.
Let's see here. Move objects. Spend force points to move one object ranging from silhouette 1 to silhouette 2. Okay, so I only need to... And I'm not hitting anything. So the base power costs 1 FP to move an object of silhouette 0 up to short range. I'm not actually moving.
Yeah.
But I will spend both force... Let me roll my force points, and I'll see how many force points I have to spend. And if I have to, I'll spend all of them to bring us to a stop. Just to see what we get here. Because why not? This sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know me, I'm always looking for the dramatic.
No, for sure. It's Star Wars. That's if you're not looking for the dramatic, you're playing it wrong.
All right, I have 3 light side and 2 dark side. I'm going to spend... if I'm reading this all correctly, I only need really to spend a force point, but I'll spend 2 force points just to make sure that we land nicely.
I'll let you spend 2 force points and land comfortably, yeah.
Yeah, especially since I also happen to have force leap.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway. Yeah.
She is standing at the ledge and just, like, screaming, like, what is wrong with... And then she, like, gets composure, looks around, and, like, you see her walk back... Or you see her walk away from the ledge in that second and just, like, disappear into the crowd.
Now, I assume that we have fallen hundreds of feet. I mean, it's Star Wars, right? So everything's built way up.
Yeah.
So, I don't know why, but I have this sort of view in mind of, Coruscant during the Clone Wars cartoon series... And, there's these deep wells that kind of lead down to lower parts of the city or the factories or whatever. And that's kind of what I envisioned, was that, I just kind of went whoop, off the edge and just fell for as long as, necessary. And then, brought us to a stop. Probably all the while, Hope is screaming. No doubt.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, I'm picturing I'm picturing this happens and immediately you just hand over his mouth and fall backwards, so it just and you're just like stone-faced, like, yep, this is what's happening.
Yep.
That's really, really good. Yeah, so you fall and you fall and you fall and you see that it shifts from that sort of clean black metal Imperial aesthetic to like rusty, warm red colors, like the old, like, Confederacy, like, the old Confederacy, like, aesthetic. Those, like, dirty, grimy factories.
Yeah,
and
grimy.
finally, like, you land on, like, a giant boiler room floor. These colossal heating vents are just surrounding you.
Nice.
What do you do?
I let go of Hope.
Why?
Well, it's either that, or you get the opportunity to die at the hands of an Inquisitor. Which would you prefer?
Understood.
Good.
I mean, I don't. I have a lot of questions, but...
I just start walking and looking around.
Okay, sure.
Sooner or later, Hope will learn that, answers are not given.
And he throws his hands up and says, I guess I just get used to this. I guess this is just how the partnership works.
I just start looking around, getting a sense of the surroundings, figuring out where we are, seeing if there is a door, all that kind of stuff. Just trying to just kind of get our bearings.
There are a few doors and tunnels. It's all very kind of labyrinthine because you're kind of just in like the lower powering sector.
Love it.
And there are, what are the little pig aliens from Bespin are kind of running around with shovels.
Udguts, I think they're what they're called.
Yes, Ugnots, yes.
Ugnots,
the Ugnots are kind of like running around. Yeah, and it is a whole different scene down here, and a lot of people are very confused as to why you have suddenly fallen and then gracefully landed, and they're just. A lot of them are just like, they see that happen and just put their head down and go.
So I'm going to walk up to one of them and say, could you point me towards the exit?
One of them looks at you and looks at Hope and looks at you and looks at Hope and just says, and like points you towards, like kind of just like waves you along because it is easier to give you what you want than get into the trouble that is going to come if you don't exit this facility immediately.
Right, or the trouble that would come from asking questions as to why that happened.
Exactly.
And who are you? It's just better for me to yeah, it's right over there. I don't know.
It's come on, follow me, and like they walk you through like some tunnels. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
It's everything that just happened is way above their pay grade.
Oh yeah, they're just nope. It's not for me. I'll show you where the exit is. It's fine.
Yeah, excellent. Love it.
And they walk you through some tunnels, and they walk you to like a much smaller like shipping port that's basically almost exclusively for just like the receiving of raw mineral of like coal and stuff. Like you can see that it kind of exits out through an extended mine cave.
Love it.
And it's basically just their way of flying like stuff that's going to be burned in here so that it doesn't have to like then go through the Imperial docking bay above.
Excellent. We have a way out. So I'm going to take a look around. What I'm envisioning, and you'll have to move things around for me if
sure.
Depending on how far off I am. But I'm envisioning that there are some kind of containers that deliver the stuff, and then those containers make a return trip somehow to the spacecraft that dropped the stuff off in the first place.
Yep.
Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to jump into one of the containers, dragging Hope with me, that is headed out. And my hope is, if we can get down in the bottom of this thing, that we won't be noticed, and hopefully get close enough that we can, sneak on board a ship or something.
I think that you do that, and the Ugnaught, like that was talking to you, kind of leans over the box, and says in sort of broken sort of common, just because like, so you looking to leave in a hurry? Because we could make that happen for a price.
Oh, absolutely. And I am more than happy to pay it.
Oh, well, all right. That was easy. And yeah. Basically, and yeah, like, so money is exchanged, and, he drags the lid over this box, because you're not exiting not in the box. Like, that's clear.
Right.
And the box is carried to sort of a sky vessel. The sky vessel goes to, like, an interstellar, like, shipping vessel, and we pan, that ship flies off, and we pan over to, we get one last shot of Charisse back on it, like, looking around and, like, texting as Imperial security goes around, and she sends off one message, and she hits send, and we sort of circle pan around to just the shot of the datapad screen sending the message. Camera swirls, and it's Jin holding it on the roof of the Jedi Temple with Rand right in front of him.
Wait, I don't understand. So she sends a message to...
Yeah. And we pan over to some time later back at the temple. Or do you go back to the temple, I guess is the bigger question.
Yeah, I would go back to the temple. Oh, I see. So it's being revealed to the audience that the general is a double agent.
Or that the general has received the message that, like, the plan to dump you off or to basically sacrifice you to the Empire to galvanize this, that you figured out the plan and backed out on it, basically.
Right. Okay. Are we continuing, or is that the end?
No, we continue. Yeah, I figured he's just standing there looking. He's like, so we should talk.
Yes, we should. I would love to hear an explanation, General.
Well, I would love to have one, but I'm afraid that we're both going to be a little...
I casually move my cloak away to reveal my lightsaber on my belt.
And I think he casually, opens up... He casually, moves his hand... transfers his datapad to his other hand and rests his hand by his blaster.
Do you think that's a wise idea, General? You think you can beat me?
I think that no matter what happens up here, you've got a long way to the starport if you do what you're thinking of doing. So I guess I would ask you the same question.
You forget. I don't really care. You do.
An opportunity fell in our laps. 2 Jedi, one of whom wanted nothing to do with us, the other of whom, naive enough that if the truth came out, would think that he was dying a martyr, and would think that he was dying for a cause. Is it something that I wanted to do? No. Could I see the case for it happening? Absolutely. You know more than anyone that this is about compromise. That there are going to be sacrifices made. And that there are going to be deals with the Sith Devil, or whatever the devil equivalent is in this galaxy that I'm not 100% sure about.
Deals with the dark side.
There are going to be deals with the dark side in order to make this happen. I'm not asking you to understand or to forgive. I'm simply asking you to accept the realities of war as it exists.
Do you know why we are in this situation in the first place?
I don't.
Did you know the Jedi Council was fully aware that a Dark Lord of the Sith was taking control of various entities throughout the Republic and did nothing about it?
Mistakes were made.
Did you know that Darth Vader, Palpatine's right hand, is rumored to have been even a member of that very Jedi Council? This thing is so much bigger than you have any idea of. And I would suggest that the next time you decide to throw me under a bus, you keep in mind just how big of a deal I can make about all of this. And I turn around and almost a little cocky, almost a little almost a little showy, like if you decide to pick a fight with me, this is what you're going up against. And instead of going down through the steps, I just kind of walk off the edge of the temple and just kind of lower myself out of view.
And I think he's just holding the blaster on his hip and just kind of lets out a I hate that I like him. And I think as you fall, as you kind of levitate down the
kind of a Magneto move, I envision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm totally same thing. And as you levitate down the credit screen levitates down with you in a top-down pan.
Nice.
And then the Star Wars music hits, and that's game.
All right. There we are.
That was good. That was fun. That was so good. I really like that.
Once again, Ran takes exit stage left as opposed to the more direct route to things.
And I actually, here's the thing. So full story, we had played a session previously that audio issues sort of was sacrificed at the altar of podcast audio issues, as so many things are.
Yes.
But so this time, since I had played a game with this character, I specifically was like, okay, I want to set up a situation that will specifically require you to exit stage left because going the direct route. And I was like, so the whole thing, I knew that was going to happen, so I was so happy that it, played out, and that I got to do the thing where I'm like, yeah, everybody wanted you to exit the direct route, because because they wanted to serve you up as an easy sacrifice.
Yeah, no, I mean, it worked out really well, I
loved it.
I wasn't sure, I knew that you were expecting, me as Ran to look at things at odd angles. Mm-hmm. And so, that's why so the first idea was, okay, well, let's try not using the shuttle. Mm-hmm. Let's just try sneaking out that way. And then once it became apparent to me that this whole thing has been a setup, I thought, well, what's the one thing that would be rather unexpected in this situation?
And it was. I have to say that 100% was unexpected.
Well, and so I just thought about Luke in, Empire Strikes Back. Mm-hmm. Vader expects Luke to concede, and Luke's like, no, and let's go. And I think, well, I'm just going to do that.
And it worked out so perfectly. I absolutely loved it.
So, well, good. I'm glad. I really have. I got to say, I really have. This is the second time in a row that I've had so much fun playing this character, playing through the stories that you have created around this character.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yeah, just when I thought this character had, was time to write this character off into the sunset, you have created an entire another sequence of events in this sort of ongoing story. Mm-hmm. That
makes me really happy.
I think we might have to, do this repeatedly.
I think we might. I think we just might have to do that. So thank you so much for coming on the show. Real quick before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
Oh yes, of course. We are in all kinds of places and all over the internet. You can find our podcast through your favorite podcast app, whether that's Apple or Podbean or Stitcher or whatever the case might be. You can also find us at Patreon. Heroes not included on Patreon, and people who become patrons receive behind-the-scenes access as well as a patron-only podcast. Currently, right now, featuring Tales from the Loop, and soon to be followed by Blades in the Dark. You can also find us.
2 good games.
2 very good games. You can also find us on Twitter at HNI_podcast, as well as Facebook. And last but not least, you can also check us out on Wizards of the Coast's very own D&D website, as we did a podcast for Podcasts of Foes featuring the Mordekainen Tomb of Foes release. So we're all over the place, and come on down, take a listen, step up to the table, and become part of the family.
Super, super cool. Well, thank you so much for doing the show. This was awesome. And I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take it, future me.
Thanks, Bass Me. And thanks again to Quinn for coming on the show. That game was everything that I wanted it to be and then some. It was spectacular. Be sure to check out Heroes Not Included at heroesnotincluded.com and follow them on Twitter at HNI_podcast. You can also follow me on Twitter at PartyOfOnePod, like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/PartyOfOnePodcast, and join our Discord community at bit.ly/PartyOfOneDiscord. You can also follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/GMJeffStormer. I've been doing weekly Fancy Friday check-in streams, as well as some Party of One editing, game design stuff, various role-playing game related things that I think are a lot of fun and I think you should check out. That's twitch.tv/GMJeffStormer. If you enjoyed the show, consider leaving us a nice iTunes review, a social media shout-out, or a word-of-mouth recommendation to a friend. Any of those things help new listeners find the show, which helps us do bigger and better and cooler things. Some other ways you can support the show include supporting me on Patreon at patreon.com/JeffStormer. Patreon backers get early access to playtest materials, podcasts, and more, and it helps me fund all of the different creative projects that I've got going on. You can also, because it is the end of the year and it is award season, nominate us for N-World's Best RPG Podcasts of 2018. There's a link in the show notes. Click that, nominate the show, and talk about why you love it. It would mean a lot to me. And speaking of podcasts, if you listened to this and thought, I just wish I could listen to Jeff talk for another 45 minutes with one other person about role-playing games, boy, have I got a podcast for you. All My Fantasy Children is a character creation, world-building, and storytelling podcast powered by you. Every week, my best friend Aaron Catano-Sayas and I take a listener-submitted prompt, and using some of our favorite tabletop role-playing games, we spin it into an original fantasy character. Along the way, we build a shared mythology and populate a universe one story at a time. New episodes drop every Friday at allmyfantasychildren.com. Party of One is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. All music for the show comes from the song Infinite Lives by Mega Ran featuring the D&D Sluggers. If you're interested in inquiring about advertising rates or about coming onto the show, you should email me at partyofonepodcast@gmail.com. And that's it for me. Until next time, thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance, and as always, party on, everybody.